Okay, well, we're here for the Grappling with Physio podcast with Steve Brown. Now, for those that don't know, Steve is a former member of the illustrious Parachute Regiment and, more importantly, retired Company Sergeant Major of the Pathfinders. Is it platoon?
It just goes by Pathfinders these days, yeah.
Yeah, Pathfinders.
But yeah, it's a platoon really, mate, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And Steve, I understand you spent, was it 27 years in total?
Yeah, 27. I did 22 regular, mate, and then I did 5 years in the full-time reservist. I stayed, luckily, staying Para Reg and kept my rank and my cap badge, yeah. So 27, mate, yeah.
Wow, 27 years, that's some service. But Steve, first of all, thank you very much for your service. It's very much appreciated. I think it's a thing in the UK that we don't do very well, and that's appreciating the veterans' service. So thanks very much, mate.
Cheers, mate.
And Steve is also an author. He's authored 2 books that he self-published and self-released. And for those that are watching, I'm just going to do a quick screen share, and we'll bring those books up now so you can see them on Amazon. So we've got, the first one was You'd Be Nuts Too. Yeah, You'd Be Nuts Too, exclamation mark. Is that You'd Be Nuts to join the Paras?
But you'd be nuts as well if you'd done some of the stupid shit I've done, yeah.
I mean, just reading through like the first paragraph, when your 2 eldest memories are of your older brother being thrown against the wall by a drug-crazed lunatic and the slaying of your pet dog, it's not a good start. I mean, that's a fantastic intro into any sort of book, and I suppose it gives us a little bit of an inkling as to your kind of growing up and your childhood, really. And then, and as you start to read through it, it looks like a great read. So I can't wait to get a copy off you, and I'm going to have a good read of that. And you've also done another one, which is Meatheads, again self-published. I take it this is a little bit more further on into the career now, past depot training, and
that one's actually a fictional novel, mate. Yeah, I started writing it on tour actually in 2006. And I only finished it last year or the year before. I think it was last year. Yeah, but that one was a long process. But yeah, that one's a fictional novel based on PF, basically, based loosely on characters that I knew and based loosely based on Afghanistan, basically. And yeah, the other ones are just a load of short stories. I've got a third one as well. So it's actually 3 books. I've got another one called Don't Ask. It's sort of like a follow-on from You'd Be Nuts Too. So yeah, I'm working on book 4 now. I'm halfway through it.
How are you finding that process of creativity? And you know, I mean, I've got nothing but kudos for you. It's fantastic that you've been able to do it. How's it what's that journey been like?
It's been pretty good, mate, to be fair. It's like I said, the first one I started writing that Meatheads. I started writing that in Afghan. We had a bit of downtime. We had a couple of patrols cancelled, and I'm like, I need to be busy. I need to be doing things. So I thought, you know what? And I mean, I didn't even finish school. You know, I got chucked out because I was an idiot. But so I hadn't done any sort of writing like English stuff since school. And I thought, you know, I keep myself busy. I'll write a little story, which is nothing that I'd normally do, you know. And it just grew and grew. And then one of the blokes lent me his laptop and said, "Yeah, well, mate, might as well use this." Because I was using my notebook at the start. I just thought I'd keep myself entertained for a couple of hours or half an hour. And it just got bigger and bigger. And then, yeah, tour ended. And by the time the tour ended, I had my first kid. So I was a dad and I was a platoon sergeant, and I was just massively busy, and I didn't have time to finish it. So over the years, it just went, you know, every now and then I'll dip into it and do a bit more. And then during lockdown, I thought, you know, let's give myself a mission to finish the book. So I finished the first one, and that was quite good, mate. To be fair, quite enjoyable. You know, it's quite stimulating because you know, you don't get to test your brain that much academically anyway in the military. So yeah, it was quite interesting. And then while I was looking into how to get things published and stuff, I started writing another book. I started writing You'd Be Nuts Too. It's just like loads of little stories, you know, stories you tell each other. Like me and you went out for a pint. It's the same sort of stories, you know, that just come up in conversation. And I thought, let's just put these down. And then there's I don't know, there's something like 75, maybe more stories in there. But it's like for blokes like me, and I don't know if you're the same. I've got quite a short attention span. So if I look at a book and the paragraphs or the chapters are humongous. It probably put me off. So these stories are all kind of mostly 2 to 5 pages, something like that. So sort of take it into the loo with you if you like. You know, do your business, read a story. You can get, you can read the stories nice and quick.
When I chat to kind of former members or guys that I serve with, and I say, look, especially the ones that stayed in, most of my peers are kind of at warrant officer level now, and some have kind of gone on late entry, etc. But they're all in the upper, like, non-commissioned or warrant ranks essentially. When I say to them, like, what was the toughest course, because you stuck your career out, what was the toughest course? A lot of them actually say, well, physically, it could be like one of the Brecon courses like SCBC, but a lot of them say it was education, your educational course. Did you find that the same, or?
I think, to be fair, no, I found that quite easy, because I think I had the ability at school. I just used it in the wrong way. So deep down in there, I've got a brain. It's deep in the massive head of mine, but there is a brain. Obviously, I had to do a bit of staff work and that in the military. Being even from sergeant, people are writing stuff now. Because everyone's got a computer. So no, I didn't really find that difficult, to be fair. It's a bit of presentation, and my spelling's all right, and my grammar's all right. So I can waffle, as you probably already realised. I can waffle. So no, the hardest course I ever done, mate, by a mile, of all the courses, not by a mile, but the hardest course I ever done was the Lerps course I did in Brunei, Jungle Lerps. That was hard, mate. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I kind of, even when I was on the PF card, I was doing endurance, which is like 64 kilometres over the Brecon Beacons. And I remember stopping, sitting down, and I was chatting to another bloke who was like on the same way as me. And we were saying about, this is pretty cheeky. And I said, do you know what, mate, this is still not as hard as that fucking Lerps course I did. And that was hard. I mean, as a young bloke then, and that was hardest. In short, to your question, Lerps Brunei.
What rank were you when you did the Lerps course?
I was a Tom, mate, the private and free borough. It's like, there was me from the signal platoon. There were two blokes, I think, from Recce, and 3 blokes from patrols. And those like, you just got lucky if you got on it, really. And I was the lucky one. And that was hard, mate. That tested me. That did, for the heat and the carrying of the weight. And when something really hard happens to me, or something significant, I try and always keep it in my mind. I try not to forget it, because I think a lot of people let things sort of fade or start seeing things through rose-tinted glasses. I mean, we all do it. I try my best not to. Like, I hated school. And my mum used to say to me, when you're older, you'll remember school and you'll realise it's the best days of your life and this. And I was like, no. And I just thought, no, don't forget how much you hate school. And I never have. Not even to say to my kids, like, I hated school. I don't lie to them about it. And when they're chuntering about school, I'm like, I hated school. I really hated it. And I'm not going to sort of pretend I didn't. But yeah, that Lerps course was the hardest thing I've ever done. Nails.
Why? What made you join the Paras, Steve? Why did you pick the parachute regiment over other regiments?
I joined Para-Reg, mate. Basically, I wanted to join Para-Reg from an early age, because I watched the 480 platoon, which was, I don't know if you were aware of that one.
Yeah.
So I watched that when I was a kid. I guess I'm a fair bit older than you, but I watched that when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I guess. And I said, I can still hear the theme tune to it now. And I've never forgotten that theme tune. I used to look forward to that every week. I think we had a black and white telly. I'd sit down, and my mum would probably let me stay up late to watch it. I was like, I love this program, and then I watched that. Yeah, and then a few years later, I watched something similar on the Royal Marines. I can't remember what that was called, but I remember enjoying that as well. I think I was in my teens by then, and that kind of got me thinking, oh, there's something else, And actually, on the first day when I went to the careers office, I said to the bloke, I want to join up, but I want to join the Paras or the Marines. Because as far as I could tell, there was no Google or anything then. But everyone knew, they were the 2 units everyone knew of, and they were kind of known as the elite. And I thought, well, I might as well try one of them. And he said to me, well, he's Marines. And he said, if you want to join the Marines, you have to speak to that bloke there, who was dressed all in these whites. He was a Navy bloke. He said, because he's Navy, he said, if you want to join the paras, you have to talk to me because I'm in the army. And he was in his like green camouflage DPM. And I thought, well, I don't want anything to do with that. The Marines don't wear that. I don't think the Marines wear that. But he was like, he represented them because he was Royal Navy, And I thought, what? No, I don't want to look like that. But, so yeah, that was kind of the tipping point, really. I suppose there's a chance if there was like a Super Alley Royal Marine there, mate, he probably could have convinced me to go in the Marines. But no, it was a bloke from the Royal Green Jackets, and obviously he tried to convince me to join the Green Jackets. He tried his best, and I considered it, but I went to the library actually where I lived. He said, look, we'll keep it on record. You want to join the paras, but if you change your mind, he's telling me all the good things about the Green Jackets, all the things he thought were good. Basically, he put me off really. He told me that. He said, honestly, well, we've lost more people in Northern Ireland than any other regiment. I was like, right. Honestly, that's what he said to me. He said, I've been in the army 12 years. I've been to Northern Ireland 9 times. And backed that up with him. I don't know whether he's right or not. I've never done the research. I was just thinking, I don't think this is positive. I just think, right. I don't know what happened. Maybe I don't know. I never looked into it. I don't know what happened. Maybe they did. Maybe they had a big event where they lost loads of blokes. But I was just thinking, that's not good, mate. I went to the library and sort of dug out what I could about the Green Jackets. There was a few bits I could find. I went back and respectfully still want to join the paras. So it's from a really early age, mate. I wanted to join para age.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I had a similar scenario. I wanted to join the Royal Marines, and you can tell by the size of my binoculars perched on my nose when nowhere near. And the bloke was just like, "We'll just do a quick eye test." And he was like, "I'm sorry, mate, but we're a bit like the fire service. We don't take people with glasses." And I was just like, "Oh, right." And there was this like Irish Guard sergeant sipping a coffee, like behind him. And as he finished his sentence, he went, "Right, come here, kid."
Yeah.
Sit yourself down here.
Yeah, too right.
He goes, "Where are you from?" And I was like, born and raised in Dublin and moved over to the Midlands. He goes, "Oh, you're Irish Guards. This is the regiment for you." He went, come here, look at this. Took me into the staff changing room upstairs. And he goes, "Look at this." And he pulled a tunic out, and a full sergeant's tunic, and the guards, the stripes are all gold, the plates got, he's like, "Look at that, feel the weight of that." And I was, you know what I mean? You're just like, "Oh yeah, okay, I just want to be in the army." Or I just want to do something. I need to get out of my council estate, and I need to get away from that particular life. Just get me in. But
that's it, mate.
So
you need a good recruiter. It's like whether it's like the uniform or whatever. So if they're passionate and they're keen, I think they'll reel you in.
So did you do basic up at Lichfield? Was it Lichfield?
Yeah, so I think we were the second platoon to start there actually, because I know that system has been and gone. I don't know how long it lasted, to be honest. Yeah, I was the second platoon, as far as I know, to start at Lichfield, but it was Parachute Regiment Company. So they still kept separate. I don't actually know what I was writing about this the other day. I don't actually know what other regiments were there. We were told not to talk. We weren't allowed to talk to anyone outside of Para Edge. We'd have got beasted if we'd have got caught. And so I did 10 weeks in Lichfield was the first phase, mate. And then after that, we went up to Catterick and did 16 weeks.
Yeah, and then on from your infantry training, that's where you go and do your P company straight after, is it? Or your jumps course?
Yeah, well, I can't think what week that would have been now. So P company was probably something like maybe 6 to 8 weeks into Catterick. So, we were at Catterick for a while. Then we did P company. Obviously, before you do P company, you got your exercise, quite a few sort of hard exercises to do. And then the week before P company, I think it was called Alpha Week, actually, and that's basically a build-up to P company. And platoon in front of me, they had a different PTI, and he destroyed them. He basically put them through P company the week before P company. I don't know what his aim was. I think he's probably one of those guys who liked to fail, wanted people to fail, so it looked harder. But we didn't get that. We were quite lucky. Our PTI, our staff, we got beasted. You got beasted every week, every day. But they didn't try and kill us, And then I got a pass on P company. Yeah, then there's a few other bits. And then you got your parachute course. Yeah, it used to be like that. You used to finish your training, or finish your do peak up and then go and do your jumps course. But now I think guys have to wait a little bit because there's no aircraft availability and funding, and sometimes they have to wait quite a while to get on their jumps course. But yeah, we rolled straight into it.
Did you do the balloon jump back then?
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got rid of that now, haven't they?
Yeah, they got rid of it quite a long time ago, mate. Apparently it wasn't cost effective, which is quite hard to believe, really. And then moved on to Skyban. But yeah, the balloon was good, mate. It was actually really good. Similar to jumping out of a helicopter, really. You just go straight down, But yeah, static line. I think we did our first 2 jumps from the balloon, actually. First 2. Yeah, it was good. You only get 4 blokes in it at a time, up 800 feet, up to 800 feet, and jump out. It was a good experience, that. And I think, so I went to Belgium a few years afterwards, and I jumped up. They had the balloon, and someone told me that balloon we were jumping out was the old RAF one. I'm not sure if that's right.
All right. That used to be a big kind of failure rate, didn't it? Because I know a few lads that had passed through who were airborne said when they did the balloons, that was like a real, because it just felt so unnatural jumping from a very still platform, straight drop, as opposed to jumping out of a moving, like a Herc or a plane, etc.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a high failure rate, to be fair, mate. I'm not sure. It was scary for a lot of people, yeah, definitely. I think especially if you're older, if you're already a soldier and you're doing P companies separately. But when you've gone through depot as a Joe, I'm sure it's the same for you, mate. You go on go, and someone says all the time, stand by go, and it's always like that. And it's like when you're up in a balloon, it's just another go. It's like both arms across your reserve, stand by go, and you just jump off. And some a corporal or a sergeant is telling you to go, so you go, and it's like because you've been conditioned, you've been indoctrinated. The way I look at it is like sort of half comically, but realistically, to me, it's the indoctrination training depot was. It really, it squared me away. It squared me away, mate. I was a little bastard, before I joined the army, in all sorts of trouble, and with no respect for the law or anybody really. And then I joined the Reg, Para Reg, and I got straightened out real quick. Honestly, and I haven't looked back. And I've reached out to my old platoon sergeant from them days and thanked him quite recently. I'd say last year, found him on Facebook and that, and I said, thanks for they turned my life around, But yeah, sorry, man, I got off on a tangent. I always do.
No, don't worry. No, listen, it's great content. This is exactly what people want to hear. I think as well, like back in those days, because I'd started training about 4 years after you. I was one of the last platoons to go through what was the old guards depot at Purbright, and that was like a notorious. Some of the stories that came out from my instructors when they were crows, they would say, you guys got it flipping a lot easier. And I know that gets said at every generation. Yeah. But then they would tell us some of these stories and you would just think, oh, maybe, you know what I mean? But I suppose it's relevant to that time, you know what I'm saying? But we did some stories and it was just like, that sounds horrific. But then I remember thinking back and telling some lads later on some of the stuff we went through, and they would go, "God, that sounds horrific." So it's always, relevant to the time. I know depot is notoriously rough. What was your what was your experience personally? What did you think?
My experience was just about 100% positive, to be fair, mate. Because something I realised, a lot later, in the last sort of 5-10 years is. And what I really needed was strong male role models, right? Because I was a bit of a dick, and what I really needed is a clip around the ear, in old money. That's what I really needed to sort me out, so to humble me and put me in my place and say, mate, you're nothing special. You're just a kid, and if I want to, and you can get slapped. But that never happened to me as a kid until when I joined depot. I was like, fuck, what the? I was just shell shocked, mate. I just looked up to them instructors, especially my corporal. My first section commander was a bloke from one para called Corporal Fletcher. And I still look back at that bloke and think, what a ninja. He's just like, and he was a corporal back there. So this is like 1993. And I never saw him after depot because we were in different battalions and I went to PF. But mate, I just saw that bloke. I really am grateful to that bloke. So I just looked at him like he's just some sort of superhero to me. was like, he doesn't. I was writing just something else I was writing. I've been doing a bit of writing. I'm saying, you know, I looked at these blokes and I thought they don't get cold, they don't get tired. I thought these blokes are amazing, and I really thought it was because of the maroon beret on their head, and like they had like para smocks, and I thought para smocks must be like made waterproof and really warm compared to the combat jackets we had to wear to be recruits. And I was thinking, oh, I can't wait to get one of them. They're really warm and cozy, and obviously they're not. It's just they were just stoic, you know. They're just unflinching, just emotionless. You know, just hard as nails. I said I came across. That's a job there. That was their job as a depot full screw. I just thought they did an amazing job, you know. And I was humbled by them. I was in awe of them. I was intimidated by them for sure, not massively. And I just thought, wow, man, if I could be like that, that would be awesome. So, yeah, and obviously good and bad days. I wasn't the best recruiter by any stretch, you know. And, but you know, I just got. I've never been the best at anything, but my average has always been all right, you know. So I got through it. And I learned a lot, mate. It straightened me out. It really did. Really did.
Was the one kind of like, was there any particular turn point during training where you just thought, this isn't for me, or look, this is for me? I got my own. I remember there was a certain point for myself where I was just like, you know, where you're constantly you're second guessing yourself through training, going, is this really for me? Well, it's not too bad, or what do I go back to if I do leave, etc. But there was one particular turning point, and you know, it was literally a tap on the shoulder, and it was it was the platoon bloke. We were doing an exercise, tap on the shoulder, and he was going, that was really good, that was, you know, like we'd done this like mock section attack, we'd got into the harbour area, and he'd come on, and usually your section commanders, that you just get this feeling that they hate you, you know what I mean? They just hate you, and it's kind of, it's very much tough love, isn't it? And you know, and the platoon bloke, although he has to be very disciplined, you know, your contact with him is pretty much minimal. And it was a tap on the shoulder saying, well done, that was really good, that was, keep it up. And you just, you know, like thinking about it now, my shoulders.
Yeah, to see it, mate. I saw you physically did it,
Yeah, so if they've gone up, and you know, I didn't feel as cold, and it didn't matter that I was just cold, and you get like a little injection of morale or energy and stuff like that. So was there any particular moment that you went through like that yourself, or?
There's a few things I remember like really clearly, like you. I mean, that's crazy because that's a long time ago, right? That was what, 97, you say?
It would have been the end of 97.
I mean, that's really resonates, doesn't it? You can just see, like you say, you even like literally sat upright because you know, like your chest is filling with, you know, sort of pride, sort of thing. It's like, it's crazy the effect these people can have on us, mate. But I mean, a real turnaround point for me was on one of the first days in depot when I realised that. Well, basically, I fell over because we were running around like idiots because everywhere was go, hurry up, you know, don't be last. We were just racing around through the corridor. I fell over and I smashed up on it. I just happened to slip on the highly polished floor we'd been bumpering right in front of the staff office. And as I fell over, the platoon sergeant came out. This bloke called Sergeant Teven, he was a mega bloke as well. And I slipped, fell back, whacked my head off the floor. And I looked at him and I hit it hard and he said, you know, you get the ringing in your ear. And I looked up at him and I genuinely thought he was going to say, are you all right, mate? Because I'd obviously just whacked the back of my head. And he looked at me and he goes, who told you to fucking fall over? Get outside! I was just like, I remember that, like you, I remember that really clearly, and that was a long time ago. But I just got up, forgot that my head was ringing, and my ears were ringing, and I thought, a bit dazed, ran down the corridor thinking, that bloke don't give a shit about me. You know, it's like, I just need to go. That's it. He told me to go, no matter what. But yeah, there's loads of moments like that, really. But there wasn't. I don't think there's no kind of moment where I think that was it for me, because I was kind of like that all the way through. So, you know, every day I'd look at these corporals mainly, and I'd just see these blokes are ninjas. You know, just be like, how do they do this? You know, my Corporal Fletcher. This is something I really remember really strongly. He's my section commander. Me and this other bloke, I still remember this bloke's name, Bailey. We were put on sentry, right, in the harbour. You know, it's for stand 2. So he said to us, right, he's right, bloke, give us a brief. Right, happy, yes, Corporal, off he goes. And I watched him walk off into the darkness. It's just getting dark. So I'd see him go off to his basher area. And then darkness came, probably an hour or so later. I was like this, you know, on sentry, just like trying to be super duper alert. There's bloke Bailey next to me. And I was, my senses were like, it was dark. And I was just thinking, listen, look, if someone could be coming. And I just heard this voice right in my ear here. You right there, Brown? And I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And I said, yes, Corporal. I knew his voice straight away. Yes, Corporal. I was thinking, how did he just get right next to me? He's obviously like lying down or kneeling down right next to me, right? And I was on high alert. This is the thing. It might not have been like that. This is still how I still remember it. He was like, did you hear me coming then? And I was like, no, Corporal. And he said, Bailey? And he's like, yeah, I heard you, Corporal. And he's lying. He failed. He was just useless. Yeah, I heard you, Corporal. I just felt like slapping him. Shut up. Yeah. But he's like, right, keep watching your arcs, lad, tonight. And then he just didn't make a sound, just disappeared again. I was just like, yeah, he was awesome. Yeah, a few moments like that, maybe, throughout the 6 months.
How long was it that you did in free power the first battalion that you went to?
Yeah, so we finished depot in December 93, and then we had Christmas leave, and I first paraded in Aldershot in January 94. Yeah, I went to A Company free power, and I stayed there. Well, I was only in A Company for about a year, and then I got dicked, as I saw it. We was doing the signals Carter. Didn't want to do it. But it was Carter, the Carter period of the year. And I got put on that. And then I passed that, and they took the top 6 students off that. So I went to the SIGs, but I didn't want to go there because I really enjoyed it in A Company. I was in one platoon, and I had a brilliant platoon sergeant who's ex-Pathfinders, called Roy Charters. And I had a magazine before I joined up and I bought Raids magazine, an old Raid magazine, and it was about the Pathfinders, and he was in it. So I was like, and when he walked through the door, I was just like, I went straight to my locker, got my magazine. I was like, this is awesome. This is that bloke I was reading about, before I joined up. And I was like, excuse me, Sergeant, is that you? And he's like, yeah, he's a bit embarrassed. And probably thinking I was a bit of a super fan or something, some sort of early stage stalker. But I wanted to stay there. But then, I did 6 card, and they were like, right, we're going to take the top, I think it was the top 6. And I said to my platoon sergeant, Roy Charters, I said, they're going to take the top 6. I said, I really don't want to leave one platoon. I love it here. I said, well, how do I do that? He said, they're going to take whoever they want, they get. He said, because, they're important. He said, so if they want you, they're going to take you. I said, well, how do I make sure I don't go there? He said, the only way to do that is to fail. And I knew I couldn't do that. And he knew I couldn't do that. He said, that's the only way to make sure you don't, to stay in one platoon is to fail that Carter. I said, well, I can't do that. And he said, no. And then I went. But I had a great time. It was good in the 6th platoon as well. Mega bunch of blokes in there. Yeah. So then I did. So that was 95. I guess I went to the 6th, and then I stayed there. Did the PF Carter in 99, end of 99, and then then went to PF in 99.
What kind of drove you towards PF as opposed to just doing selection, or was it just?
Well, I had a couple of mates who'd gone to PF, and they were having a good time there. I did want to go on selection. What year was it now? I've done that's right. I put my name down for selection in, I can't even remember, probably a couple of years before that, a year or two before that, and then got injured while I was preparing. Basically, I was out on the hills tabbing around with a really good bloke, a good mate of mine from Freeborough called John Hollingsworth. Unfortunately, he died while he was serving in Hereford. He's a bit of a legend, Freeborough legend in Hereford as well. He got shot on tour. But me and him were coming down off a hill, Fan 4. I remember it really well. We'd had a really good day on the hills, and I was coming down off a hill called Fan 4. We parked up a minibus on the foothills of that, and then I just sort of shuffled down a little. It was only like a little knoll. We were on the way down. We were near the bottom, right near the bottom. And I tripped, fell over, and John was laughing at me, like, yeah, you dick. And I was just like, I stayed down, and I was like, I knew, because I've got damaged my ankles a few times. And he's like, oh shit, are you all right? And I was like, oh mate. And I think selection was starting. It was like, no, I think it was the next weekend. He said, come on, mate, you'll be all right. And I was just like, mate, there's no way. I proper smashed it, I torn the ligament. But, so I did, I did want to go on selection, but then I can't remember what happened. I think I was just talking to people, and a mate of mine from 3 pair of SIGs, bloke called Gingy, passed the Carter that year or the year before me. He was having a cracking time. I thought, well, I'll have a go at that. So I did that, and I'm glad I did. You know, I'm glad. To be honest, it worked out. It worked out really, really well. That it went that way.
For those that like would be listening that wouldn't know or not be kind of military minded, not have an inkling of what the Pathfinders is, can you sum it up for us, please, Steve?
Yeah, so it's basically the forward. It's the advanced force for 16 Air Assault Brigade. So you've got obviously the brigade normally goes first because they can move so quick and react so fast. You know, so most of the time it's either the commando brigade or the airborne brigade that goes deploys first on any kind of unexpected ops, fast ops. So, but before the brigade goes somewhere, or goes into an area, they want to have a bit of intelligence on it. So generally they send Pathfinders, or in the commando brigade, they've got the brigade reconnaissance force. I think they used to be called a brigade patrol troop, but I think they changed it. And in the 16th Air Assault Brigade, you've got Pathfinders. So it's kind of a platoon plus size unit. It's tri-service, so anyone can apply for the selection cadre. You know, a lot of people think you have to be airborne or whatever. Anyone can have a go at the cadre. And if you pass it, yeah, you go in, and it's a really great place to work, mate. It's really good because you've got, say, 40, 50 blokes, but it's a really good mix. So you might have, if you've got, say, a 6-man patrol, in that patrol you'll have maybe if you have someone from the Royal Signals, and that's their core skill. You know, they're really, really good. So your comms is good. You know, you've got someone that's you're always going to get comms, right? Because those blokes are actually a lot better than. I was in the 6th platoon. I learned a lot more when I went to Pathfinder about comms because of these blokes. You got engineers, so if you want to blow something up or make booby traps, you know, they can take the lead on that. With a demolitions expert. If you're in a vehicle patrol, you've normally got a guy from the REMI. So he's like his background, his job in the army before he went to PF was a vehicle mechanic. And within the Pathfinders, you've always got like a forward air controller. There's always snipers. We've got loads and loads of snipers. There's always snipers, at least one in every patrol, normally 2, 3. There's comms specialists, you've got medical specialists. We used to send blokes on not hospital attachment, on paramedic attachments. So they'd spend the weekend in London driving around with the ambulance service, London ambulance service. And this, really opens, really, really broadens your horizons. There's a lot going on. There's so much like combined knowledge there. And there's no kind of massive hierarchy about you're a crow or you're from this regiment, or no one really gets involved in that. It's like whatever you've got, it's like give us it, bring it, and it just enhances and the capability of the PF. It's a great place, mate. It really, really is. There's no sort of big time in. Every now and then you hear people and naysayers of a bunch of big time, but I've never seen it. I did 10 years in the PF. I was there all through all the ranks. I say I never see it. There's the odd one or two, like you get everywhere. You're a dick. But that's rare. Most of the blokes are really humble. And they've got a massive, really, really good capability. And yeah, it's a great place to work, mate. You just have to get through the PF selection cadre, which is 6 weeks, grin and bear it. It's a lot easier to accept that you're grafting for 6 weeks rather than 6 months. If you want to go on SF selection, that's a 6-month course. 6 weeks, you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel a lot sooner. It's kind of there from day one. It's like it's only 6 weeks. So, but it's hard, mate. It is hard, but it's well worth it. I recommend it to anyone.
You said it was tri-services. So can you get if people apply from like the Navy or the Air Force or different branches of the Army, do they not have to be P Company qualified first of all? What happens if they do pass selection? Do you then put them through their jumps course afterwards and then do things like Halo, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got your as far as parachuting goes, you've got your basic parachute course, which is one you see like the battalions doing. So they're jumping out on a static line on a round parachute. So they've not got much control over it. It's just like get out, get down. It's like just to get everyone in nice and fast, and as close together as possible. So you've got to still go and do that. I'm not sure what the jumps number on that is now. I think it's 6, like six jump course, something like that. Right. And then if you go to Pathfinders, you'll go on the high altitude parachute course, where you do your high altitude high opening and halo high altitude low opening course. So free fall, or you basically can go on a static line. You can just jump out on a static line at 25,000 feet, and basically just, fly in quite a long way under canopy. That's, it's good, mate. But you don't have to have done P company. So basically the Pathfinder card is recognised as being in excess, if you like, demand-wise, of P company. So if you could, you'll get presented your maroon beret from the brigade commander after the Pathfinder card if you pass that. So you don't have to go backwards and then do P company. It's just good. It's just opening your risk of getting injured. If you survive 6 weeks of PF without getting Carter without getting injured, if you then went and done P company, you're edging your bets. You're going to be lucky not to get injured doing both of them courses.
So are you still your own cap badge, but with a maroon lid?
That's right, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So whoever goes there, they keep their cap badge.
Yeah.
And they stick it on a maroon beret.
So what's the percentage? What's it? I would say it's majority made up of paras.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly power edge, but I'm not sure when I left. It's not like it's not a crazy amount. It's probably, I'd say they're the dominant unit, but it's probably, I'd say, between 50 and probably 50-60% power edge. I'd say these days, from what I know. Yeah, maybe a bit more. But then you get a lot of blokes will say, why do that? Like, kind of what you're alluding to is, why bother doing that? I'll just go on selection. So some people see it as like a stepping stone, although a lot of people hate that phrase. They'll do it with a few years in PF, because you've got to do a minimum return of service, do a few years PF, and PF have got a really high pass rate on selection, by far, because it's only a small unit, by far the highest pass rate on selection. There's loads of PF gone down that route. But yeah, it's,
if I think back to my own time, I just think it's knowledge. It's, like I did know of the Pathfinders before I joined the army. I remember saying to you the other day on the phone, I watched that program, and it was about the Pathfinders. That's the one where Steve Healy was like I think he was a lance corporal or a corporal in it. You know what I mean? And Michael Patello was the defense secretary, and you were like, oh God, what? Yeah, and they were talking about funding, and you were like, oh, what a juicy job that is. That looks proper. Yeah. And it does look brilliant, but I just think, I don't ever remember, and we were out in Germany, but I don't ever want anyone say, come around and saying, right, there's recruitment for the Pathfinders card, unless you search it out yourself. And if you don't know about it, it's like, and especially us being in Germany, armored infantry, where we're all in the back of the warriors, or, it's, you're just thinking, well, I'm in this role. I've got to go back to, I've got to either transfer to another guard unit or an infantry unit that is light role, get my skills up, get my fitness up, etc. Because they do drop, especially when you get to Germany. You don't, all I remember was Wednesdays was a half day. Fridays, everyone would fin out and either fly home or go travel around Europe. So it's not like, and again, you're rocking up in a warrior, the warrior's parking up, and you got to jog, clear a trench within about 25 meters. Your standard, your fitness does drop down, like, so.
Yes.
And beer in Germany is super cheap as well.
Yeah, I know. I never like served there, but I know I've got mates who have, and it just seems to me like everyone's just
on the sauce,
like party town.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that can slow a few things down and change your perspective on quite a few things. So
yeah, we had a bloke from the tanks. We had two blokes from the tank regiment on my card actually, and one of them, something else I was writing about the other day because I remembered it. One of them went around to do his weapon handling test, just on SA80, and he walked around the corner. We were like on the other side of the building waiting, and he came back. He was back within like 10 seconds. With his head down, and he's a big old boy he was. And he's like, oh, fucking hell. And he's all dejected. I'm like, what happened there? And he's like, he basically picked the weapon up and just, I think the usual sketch, Mag was on, working pass to the rear, and he just like put the working pass forward and pulled the trigger, but like pointing at the DS. And like, are you for real, mate? And he's like, right, I suggest you take yourself around there, get hold of one of the power edge blokes out there, and get him to take you through weapon handling. Oh, and he told us this. He said that basically that had happened. That's what happened. And he said, yeah, well, if they want to know how the gun works on a Challenger, I'll fucking show them that with my eyes shut. I'm like, it's not useful, mate. It's not going to help you here. Yeah, we sorted him out.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you've definitely got an advantage on the Carter if you're like you say, power edge or light infantry. And,
Yeah.
you're definitely going into it with a bit of an advantage. But everybody on that Carter, everyone gets a fair crack. I mean, we had a guy actually while I was there. He was mountain rescue, RAF mountain rescue, and that was his trade. And he passed the Carter. I mean, he was super duper fit, very, very fit bloke and intelligent. But, his basic soldiering skills when he arrived were, I'd say, minimal. You haven't got that long with him. You've got 5-6 weeks. But it's hard and it's intense. And it's like, as long as the potential's there and as long as they reach a standard, they don't have to be super soldiers. It's like, they've got to be pretty good by the end of it,
Did you ever go back to like depot as an instructor, or were you a DS on the Pathfinders Carter at any point during your career?
Yeah, I mean, a DS, I was kind of thinking if I didn't pass the PF Carter, I think I would have liked to have gone to depot, just because I really like the effect that the depot had on me, right? And I think if I could do that to other young lads who were like wayward teens, if you like, I would like to be able to have that kind of influence on them and sort of pay that back to power edge. But obviously, when I did pass the Carter, I did DSing. I did a lot of DSing on the Carter. Yeah, I learned a lot actually through DSing. I took quite a few teams through. And it really developed me as an instructor for sure. But I was I'd say I was firm but fair. I'm a big believer in that. But, I'd say I was demanding, but I was, and I did I'd give him a beasting, but I'd say, look, if you mess up, then there's got to be a consequence. There's going to be a punishment, and at the time everyone giving out monetary fine, like £1 for this, £1. I hated that. I still don't like it now. It really winds me up. But I said, what would you rather have? You can do it that way, or you can do extra PT. And bearing in mind, they do a lot of PT on it, and every time they say extra fitness. Right, cool. And I just give them a lot of push-ups or something at the end of the day, if they've messed up, but not just for bollocks, for making mistakes, just so they don't do it again. But I had one group actually. There was a bloke called Scotty on there. He was from the Remy. He was on my. I was DSing his team. They'd made a few errors. It was like everyone accepted it. I was like, right, lads, we've got to do these push-ups now, or they're going to get this beasting over and done with. And a lot of time I just turn it into like a contact drill. I contact drill them up a really steep hill. So it's like they were learning as well as getting punished. That's what I told them anyway. But I basically contacted and drilled up this road, a really steep hill over in the Sennybridge training area, and they raced up there doing this funnel contact drill. And this bloke Scotty was so fit, it was unbelievable. It got to the top of the hill. I mean, I was gassing because I was just following him and gobbing off, but everyone else was like on their knees pretty much, and he just stood bolt upright, weapon in 2 hands, didn't even look like he was breathing heavy at all. I just looked at him, I said, Jesus Christ, mate. I said, you are fit as fuck, aren't you? And he was like, I'm all right stuff, yeah. I was thinking, he's got all the kit, and I only had a day sack with like a flask in it or something, he was Remy. He wasn't infantry. And he learned, his progression on the Carter was just like, well, more than that, vertical, pretty much. You could watch him. I do it, first round he fired on GPMG was on the Carter. I remember it was on the ranges, and I said, right, mate, he wants to go first, because I used to put little belts of like 3 to 5 rounds on, so they go through loads of stoppage drills. And I said, right, mate, your first target is, and I pointed out a figure 11, 300 meters away, this first target. And he put first burst of 3 rounds down, dropped this target. I just thought this bloke, he's naturally good at, very, very good at soldiering. He's super fit. Yeah, and he done well. He done really well. Passed, went on to be platoon sergeant, all sorts. Yeah, really good bloke.
Wow. When you obviously stepped off, were you the rank of company sergeant major?
When I left the military?
Well, when you left Pathfinders.
Yeah, when I left, I was already a sergeant major when I went to Pathfinder. And I left there. I did two years as a sergeant major, and then I moved on to my last job as a regular.
What's that like? What's some of the responsibility of because you're essentially the man. Do you know what I mean? I know we have officers. I know we have inverted commas leaders. All right, but I can name some very influential sergeant majors I served under, and they were just, well, like you said about the depot guys, they were nails. They never ever seemed to be, like, Imagine knocking around on somebody's house on a Saturday and they kind of, open the door and their hair's all messed up and they're in their dressing gown. Oh, you've caught me off guard. I guarantee if I knocked round on this bloke, Si Nichols, who was one of my sergeant majors, and he answered the door, he'd be in full rig, stood to attention, going, I was expecting you.
With a DS hand.
Yeah, with a 5-finger point like that. I was expecting you. You're late.
Yeah, mega.
So
it's hard, mate. Being a sergeant major, I did a few jobs as a sergeant major. I did probably four different roles, and that Pathfinder one was by far the hardest, mate. I mean, it was absolutely non-stop. If I didn't do my fitness, if I went into work before doing fitness, that was it. I didn't get fitness done. As soon as I entered that building, I was stuck in it. I didn't get to hardly got home to go home for lunch or go to the mess or whatever. I'd just eat at my desk and it'd be non-stop. The phone ringing. It could only have got worse. Emails. It's just non-stop, mate. It's unbelievable. Because you're basically you're the career management officer, you're the welfare officer, you're the adjutant, you're everything. You got to manage this group of blokes and their tri-service. So you're dealing with like manpower desk or manning desks in the Navy or in the Air Force. You've got to deal with all the ammunition. Like you're the man. You do all the ammunition. You do all the sort of weapons, everything. Obviously, the colour man he's super busy as well. But I mean, really busy, horrendous. But that sergeant major's job was non-stop. You don't know. You can't appreciate it. I mean, one day I was on the ranges with some of the blokes, and one of the blokes said to me in Colchester, he said, I bet it's good to get out of the office in it for a couple of hours. I said, it is, mate. It's mega because I like shooting. I've always liked shooting. I said to him, the problem I've got now, mate, is I said, coming down here for 2 hours is probably going to give me an extra 6 hours work when we get back. So because my emails and that are all going to be backed up and there's going to be messages everywhere. And I was right, I didn't get out till I think 11 o'clock that night. And it's just, and I said to him like the next day, I told him, I didn't get out till 11 o'clock last night. But that's again, part of that's down to diligence. Not everyone's going to do that, right? Not everyone's going to do that, but you sort of take that responsibility on, and it was really hard, mate. I left there actually, and I handed over to an old mate of mine called Mac, and I'd left the PF. I went back I think it was a couple of months later. I went up the stairs, went into the PF compound, went up the stairs to my old office to see him and see how he was doing. And as I got to his office door, I was stood behind him, but he was like this with his hands on his head, just like staring out the window. And I was behind him, and he's like, and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "You all right, Mac?" And he turned around, he looked at me, and he just looked like that. I just started laughing. And he's shaking his head. And I said, "It's fucking hideous, isn't it?" And he said, "Yeah, mate." He said, "It's unbelievable." I said, I told you it was like this. But yeah, it was full on, mate. It was rewarding in a lot of ways, but it's really, really busy. And I think people outside of it, even if you've been in it, you don't know, even when you're a Tom or a Lance Jack or whatever, you don't know, but it's unbelievable workload. Like nothing I've done that experience anywhere else.
And essentially the buck stops with you, doesn't it? Like there are officers attached to the platoon, but like you said, a lot of that real responsibility, happens at your level. Oh yeah.
Yes. Like, anything of strategic stuff, you can fire it up to the boss, but yeah, and if it's like officer to officer stuff, fire it on, get the OC into it. But yeah, generally you want to leave them alone to deal with the strategic stuff and just take it. It all comes to you. There were cheer with people outside the door, mate. I sat on my desk once, and I had my works mobile on my landline, and there's like a bloke stood there talking to me. I'm like, hang on a minute, the phone rang. I said, just hang on a minute, mate, because I was expecting this call. So I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so much brown down. Like, yeah, cheers, my boy. Put it down. So, finish with him. Yeah, right, mate, go do that. Cheers to him. Next bloke's waiting. Mobile phone rings. I'm like, so much blah, blah, blah. Yeah, cheers. Put it down. Next bloke comes in. He's like, and then I'm hang on, mate, the other phone's ringing. It was just, honestly, right, it sounds like I'm lying, but it was just like that all the time. Next, yeah. And it was non-stop.
Got a picture of it like some sort of call center in India, just dealing with call after call.
It wasn't like that, mate. Yeah. I probably made as much sense as them people as well. Yeah, it was crazy, mate. It was absolutely crazy. But I'm glad I did it. It set a precedent. So everywhere I went after that was a lot easier. And I could always relate back to that and go, well, even on a busy day, it was nowhere near that, honestly. you know, the PF are busy, really, really busy. And a lot of people think they're just waltzing around, you know, talking about free fall and that, but there's a lot of work to do, loads and loads of work.
Let's for those that also don't know, Steve, you're also a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
So let's go on to that. I'm just conscious of the time here. I could chat to you for hours, mate. When did you get into jiu-jitsu? When did you first put on the gi, etc.?
Well, I started training in MMA in 2007 under a bloke called Brian Adams, Big Brian Adams in Gosport. I lived in Gosport. I went there as a survival instructor to Gosport, found a club. Basically, a mate of mine who was in PF actually told me that he was from Gosport, told me about this club. And because I'd just been so busy, I'd not had time to do any sort of martial arts training. I did a lot of martial arts training when I was a kid before I joined up, and just kind of did a bit of bag work and that for while I was serving. Anyway, moved to Gosport, tapped up this bloke, Brian Adams, went along to his gym called South. It was called South Coast Submissions at the time. It was an MMA gym. He's called Gym 01 now. He's a big gym in Portsmouth now. And he introduced me to the grappling. And I loved it, mate. You know, I loved it. So I thought this is a whole new dynamic. My striking's always been all right. You know, I'm no ninja at anything, but you know, I can punch and I can kick, and I did taekwondo and kickboxing, and so. But this grappling was just like, oh my god, you know, smash! I was just getting obliterated. I thought I need to learn this. This is awesome, and it really stimulated my brain as well. You know, it's like there's so much to learn. Like, you know, it's just never ending. No one knows all of it. No one. So I was training with him for a year. First 6 months I got beat up. I had a black eye. I was telling someone this yesterday, actually. I had a black eye pretty much for 6 months, one or the other or both. I went to a competition, a tournament with Brian and a few of the others. It was called MMA League, it was called. It was amateur competition. And I had a couple of bouts. I think I lost the first one, drew the second one. And at the end of it, we were in the change rooms. And this bloke said to me, "What happened to you? How come you got black eyes?" I had 2 black eyes. And Brian said, "He's always got a black eye." He said he's the only bloke who comes away to his competition. It was a no headshot competition, was the thing. So you weren't allowed to punch or kick in the head, right? And I had 2, honestly, I had 2 black eyes at the end of that day. I only had 2 fights. Probably got punched. I don't know whether it was an accidental knee or, but I'd always getting clocked. I guess I bruise easily, but yeah. And then I just kept it up from there, mate. So wherever I moved to, so I left. I was only in Gosport for a year, and then I moved to Newquay. I found a club. I'd already trained at a club there when I'd gone there on a course. So I knew a bloke there called Mark Rowler. He's still coaching in Newquay. He's a really good coach, like MMA and striking. And he was doing the grappling as well, not BJJ, but submissions. I trained with a guy called Kev Derrington. He's a brilliant coach down here in Cornwall as well. Did a lot of training with him, no gi. Yeah, and then just slowly but surely got into the gi, and I ended up training in, because I got moved to St Athan. So I was in South Wales, and I trained at Chris Reese Academy there. With most of the training classes I did there with local Rob Taylor. He's a really good coach, black belt. And I did some privates there. A guy called Ash Williams. I've seen him on like Polaris and that. He was a purple belt then. I did some private classes with him. I just went around, mate. And during my travels, I went to America, training clubs there, and just really got into it. But yeah, the gi stuff, I didn't really like the gi. When I started doing gi classes, I thought, this is boring. I'm just getting stuck. People like putting me in their guard, getting grips, and I was thinking, this is shit. This is boring. Nothing's happening. But over time, I probably prefer the gi now. I like both. I train both, but it kind of, I suppose there's even more to think about, isn't there? When you put the gi on, there's even more to think about.
Yeah.
And the collar chokes. And,
yeah.
So, I've always tried to keep on top of it, mate. I've always tried training as much as I can, but obviously in the military, you're away all the time, and sometimes you can't train for a month. But I've not been the most consistent, but I've always trained, mate, since 2007.
How important is it for you to train grappling for your physical and your mental health?
Mega important, mate. Mega. Yeah. So, as you know, I've been through the mental health kind of process for quite a while. And it kind of made me realise actually a while ago, I kind of realised how it's something that's really mindful. And people talk about being in the present, in the moment. And there's nothing, you've got to be so present, haven't you? If someone's trying to choke you, you're trying to choke someone else, or escaping, or setting up a submission, you're not thinking about anything else outside of that. There's any worries you got about bills or relationships or anything. It's like you're just totally focused in that 5-minute round or whatever, and then the minute rest, you're focused on getting your breath back. So it's like, yeah, I think it's really, really good, mate. I think it's amazing for mental health. I really try and promote it to people, you know, and so just come down and, you know, it just takes your mind off everything else, just because you're just thinking about, you know, not getting choked or choking someone else. It's great.
Yeah, likewise, I'm the same. I always try and, you know, I mean, I think that terminology, it was life changing or it was a real game changer, gets thrown about, but it really was, you know, for me. You know, I did a lot of boxing before that, and I was a bit of a boxing snob, and I thought, well, you know, if you come at me, I'll uppercut you. And then I had a patient, of mine, and he's a great mate, and this is years ago. I had a patient of mine. He came in and he dropped his bag down. I was like, "What's all that?" Because I do jiu-jitsu, and I did this image of him in like an Aikido kind of gi, you know, the old where they throw each other around like Steven Seagal. He went, no, it's not like that. He said, "Have you ever seen a documentary called Choke? It's about the Gracie family." And I said, "No." He said, "Yeah, you should watch that." And then he says, "Then, you know," he says, "because it's like wrestling and it's grappling." And I was like thinking, what, WWE? And he was like, no. So I watched this documentary that night and I couldn't sleep. I was just fascinated, you know, watching Hickson cut through everyone in that tournament, and just how he just was phenomenal. And then the next time he come in, after we'd finished our physio, I was like, "Right, how you feeling?" He was like, yeah. I says, "Right, let's go in the gym." And I says, "Right, let's say, you know, because I'm not convinced. You got to sell it to me." And he went, yeah, Sandy. He says, "So, well, what would you do if I was attacking?" I said, "I'll just punch you." He goes, "Well, go on then." And I says, "What?" He goes, yeah, go on. Just give me a backhand, fast as you like." So I says, "You sure?" So should I put some gloves on? I says, "Look, I'll open palm you." He went, "Whatever." He says, just do it." So anyway, I went to, and as fast as I could, went to open palm slap him. He shot down, changed levels, double legged me down to the floor, mounted me, and armbarred me all within the space of a few seconds.
Yeah.
And I got up, and it was, you know, in the penny drops, and you just went, right, where can I train? And I signed up within no time, and I've never stopped since then. But it is amazing. I love that meme. You've probably seen that meme, and it's the bloke, it's just a cartoon. He's driving in the car and there's a speech bubble, and he's like, bills, wife, kids, work, and he's stressed. He's got, like, you know, drops on his head, and then he gets into he puts his gi on, he's in a roll, and next thing he's going, breathe, position, you know, space. And then you see him driving home, and it's completely nothing. And I've gone there, you know, stressed, white noise, etc. Gone and had a good roll, and I feel like flipping Gandhi afterwards. I feel amazing.
Yeah, same, mate. I always feel mega after training. Always. Well, I train with in Liscard now in Cornwall with a bloke called Mark Tucker. He's a 2nd or 3rd degree black belt under Pedro Bessa, and he's absolute ninja. He's ex-Royal Marine. So you know, we have got a good crack going with each other straight away. But it's just like opened my eyes even after training. Also, I started training with him last year, and it's just completely opened my eyes to loads more stuff. You know, I was doing all right. You know, learning. As long as I'm learning, I'm happy. As long as I'm learning, but I kind of got to a point where I thought, you know, you've got these peaks and troughs, haven't you? Or these plateaus, and I'm thinking, well, I was kind of like here for ages. You know, not really. Didn't feel like that progression. You know, it's like I've got better. I didn't have that moment for a few years, to be honest. And I started training with him, and I just like all this new information and concepts and information. And it's like he's got submissions everywhere. He's really, really like skilled, like super duper skilled, and really keen to pass it on, which I like to do. You know, because you say I'm a brown belt, but you know I know there's much better. A lot of people like Mark. You know, people much better than me who kick my ass all day long. Great. I like that because it's like that. I'm looking to them to learn. If I didn't feel that, I'd probably go and try something else, learn something else. But I still know that. You get humbled all the time. But I like to teach people, like, so they, you know, or try and help people anyway. So they're learning and they go, what? You know, like you were your first session. I was my first session. So I love all that. I think you're missing out if you're not doing it, to be honest.
It's quite real, isn't it? You know what I mean? There's no there's no space or error, and because it's constantly evolving, jiu-jitsu, grappling, there's no bullshit. You know, like what you will see in other martial arts. It's like, oh well, you could do, you know, death claw or, you know, death punch, whatever. You're like, no, that doesn't work, mate. You know what I mean? And like, if I've got your neck and you grab me by the ghoulies, I'm going to squeeze tighter, and I'm probably going to snap your neck, etc. So, do you think there's a have you seen how much the army team has developed, and the Royal Marines, and like things like the Sam the X's retired colour bloke PTI, I've forgotten his surname now. He set up like the reorg charity, and then you've got like the British Army team. They've got them out competing in the Pan Ams and IBJJF Europeans, the Worlds. Fantastic, absolutely,
really good,
amazing.
And they're proper competitors as well, aren't they? And it's like, you know, like I'm sure you know. So I mean, I'm not an active competitor, mate. I don't like the anxiety and all that goes. I really like training, and I like meeting people and all that, but I don't like the stress. I don't like being in I don't actually want to break someone's arm or try and break someone's arm. You know, it's just like, and I don't want someone to try and break mine as well, I suppose, at the same time. I mean, the people who are competing at the high level, I mean, they're the best, you know, and they've got a couple. I know there's a couple of blokes in the army team who are really, really good. Well, probably loads of them. But I think they're kind of full time, mate. You know, like the army rugby team and the other teams they've got. I think they're pretty much, that's it. They do jiu-jitsu and they represent the army. Yeah,
well, there was a few years ago, jiu-jitsu got recognised by Sport England. So once it got recognised as a proper sport, so you've got the UK BJJ Association, which was what we talked about, and, you know, setting up a club, they can give out funding. And I think when it gets recognised by Sport England, you've got potential for lottery funding, just like any other sport. You know, but then there needs to be an established international team, etc. But they are getting money there essentially as an association. So it's very interesting.
Right.
Do you think there's a place? Because if I think back to, like, especially phase 2 when I was at Catterick, I think we did one afternoon where we had a PTI come out, and he was from one of the Scottsdale regiments who'd just been to Northern Ireland. He's got the mats out, and we did like locks and holds, but it was crowd control, you know, for rioting.
Yeah.
Do you not think, like, would you make a case for BJJ being in the curriculum or the system, you know, for infanteers? It's mad to think that there's nothing like that, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a big misconception about martial arts and stuff in the military as well. Everyone thinks everyone's boxing or doing unarmed combat, but there's nothing, is there? There's nothing. And as you go, like, I used to run the survival school where I was the training sergeant major. I basically devised and ran SEER combatives, so this escape and evasion course. We do a combatives session on that. So we started doing that, and people, most of the people who came through really enjoyed it. But that's a lot of that's jiu-jitsu based. So we do a couple of chokes, because obviously you've only got a few hours. I always do like a guillotine and a rear naked choke, just like in the opportune moment. You think, well, and I don't normally, a lot of the time let's say I do a rear naked choke, I'll get the smallest girl out and say, well, you'd have a class of say 30 odd people every week, and they say, say to the smallest girl, do you think you could choke him, like the biggest bloke, a massive bloke? You'd be like, no. Right, what? Even though you've just practiced that technique, not him, he's massive. And go, all right, come out, and you get them to, and people go, Jesus, because it's like a really small girl or bloke, the smallest person there choking the biggest person there, and that person's tapping fast, and because they're going out and they know it. It's like, right, this stuff really does work. If you see the opportunity, if it's there, take it. It's like, because a lot of people say, well, that never happened, this will never happen. It's like, well, it might not. That's why I teach, I teach self-defense classes and that. It might not ever happen, but if it does, you don't know what's going to happen in an actual fight. Yeah. It's crazy. It's madness. Yeah. A real fight's just crazy. You don't know where you're going to end up. You're going to end up on the floor, on top. You don't know where it's going to end up. If you've got a few tools and techniques, but like the control thing, I've been doing a bit of that recently in a couple of classes I run. And it's like, even like things like a mounted crucifix or side control crucifix, things like that. It's a mega control position. But I say to people, this isn't great for a multiple attack. If there's a multiple attack, then no. I just want to be up on my feet and away. But if it's one-on-one, which a lot of fights are one-on-one, it's like, is a really good control position. You don't have to do the old like kneeling on the neck stuff. You can you can twist someone up. You know what it's like. If you know a bit of jiu-jitsu and you think you're about to fight someone who doesn't know some jiu-jitsu, doesn't know any, you know that if you get them on the floor, they're fucked. It's like you say, you've done some boxing, and there's a lot of people like that. But if I knew you'd done some boxing, I just think, well, but I also knew you haven't done any jiu-jitsu, or I could assume that. I'd just get you on the floor and just control you, because it's not that difficult with a bit of training, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Control a much bigger person.
Yeah.
Whether it's through pain or just immobilizing the joints or whatever you do. It's I love it, mate. I think this should be part of the curriculum for the police, for the military, anyone with that kind of thing going on. Anyone like
prison officers.
Oh yeah, mate. Yeah. And you can teach them with the right instructors. They can learn how to do it safely as well. Learn how to do it safely to them and to the person they're subduing.
How was your? It was kind of like staying on the mat. Was that quite integral to you transitioning from 27 years to becoming a civilian, and how's that kind of process been? I mean, when I listened to your story, I mean, this is how this came back, because I listened to that podcast you did on the Real podcast with Dave, and when you realized, there was that penny drop moment, and you thought, right, I'm going to be a civilian soon, and I'm not ready for this, and I don't feel good. I need some help and support, which in itself is a big thing to recognize, in yourself, and say, oh, I need help here. So that in itself is quite a big thing. Did jiu-jitsu help you transition through, and was there any other things that you kind of struggled with, or could you, let's say somebody else who might be listening to this who probably is leaving soon, what would you say to them and say, look, if you're going to leave, make sure you do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, and it's interesting, mate, because that's something I've been thinking about recently as well, actually. You've got this kind of, when you leave the military. Now, I left two years ago now, right? But I've never really, you still kind of, because I spent a long time there, I still don't really feel like I'm like a full-on civvy yet. But it's that camaraderie, mate, I think is a big part. So everyone thinks like, oh, you never make friends in infantry like you do in the army, or you never make friends in the Marines like you do in the paras, or the Air Force. We've all got these little cliques, right? But actually, I've made some really good mates through jiu-jitsu, just through jiu-jitsu. And I've got a couple of really good mates, quite local. Most of them, a lot of them are down here in Cornwall. But some blokes I've trained with for years. And we'd be chatting one day, and I said, mate, I've known you for 4 years, and all we've ever done is tried to break each other's bones or strangle each other. Like, don't really know that much about them. Just in a minute off, in a minute, you might have a shoot shit a little bit at the start, at the end of the session, and you're walking back to your cars. Yeah. But actually, I've built really good friendships up with people just through jiu-jitsu. That's
the best way to know people.
It is, mate. I think it really is. And I say that, because I took the classes I've been running recently, self-defense class and that. Sometimes you introduce people, right? Oh, do you not know each other? All right, this is them, this is them. Right, on you go, and then the next, within 2 minutes, of strangling each other and stuff. But it really breaks down the walls. Yeah, I've made some really good friends, and it's because there's a common interest for one, and then obviously there's a rank structure as well. So you've got the belts. Depending on what gym you go to, it depends how strict they are with that. Like, to get people to line up in or rank order or whatever. I don't care what they do, but there is a rank structure there, and there's always there's an aim to a lesson. There's a lesson. It's if you've got a good coach, there's a lesson with an aim and a purpose, not just someone cuffing it. There's people to look up to, and there's a lot of mentoring. And if you're in a good gym, there's a lot of mentoring and coaching going on as well. This is what goes on in the military all the time. So I like it. It's clear. It's like there's a hierarchy as well.
Hierarchy, tribal, quite tribal.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely. You're all together, aren't you? And you leave together. If you walk out, if someone kicked off with someone in your group, say if you walked out of the gym, it's not something I really think about, but I'm pretty sure the blokes I've just left the gym with would have my back. Not take my back, but have my back.
Would you agree that all the training that the military put into making you, who you are, career development, etc., is great, apart from when you get to a certain point when you're about to leave, and then that same ethos that they train you up doesn't get applied to training you out or untraining you, etc. Because it's very hard. I mean, you know, I did just, you know, just under 6 years, all right, and that was one of the things I struggled with, just to let go of a lot of stuff, you know, silly bullshit that's just ingrained in you, and you just think, well, no, this is part of my character. And it's not. Well, it was back then in that environment. Now the environment's changed, and you either adapt or you're going to fall to the wayside. And this, you know, it takes time and it takes work, and saying, I need to let that go, or I need to not hold on to that so much, or, you know, I've got to be able to adapt, otherwise I'm just never going to progress.
Yeah, I mean, I did resettlement. So I went through resettlement twice. Because when I finished my regular service, and then because I did 5 years full-time reserve service, I was entitled to another one. So I've gone through it twice. And I think it is there, but you need to know how to navigate it. And really, you need someone to manage you through it. So I was at a tri-service camp when I left a couple of years ago, and the guy there, I went to see the careers bloke as I thought he was, and he was like, I don't deal with you. You're army. And I was like, yeah, but this is a tri-service camp. You know, no, that's someone else you need to speak to. And he just sort of gave me a random number. They ended up getting hold of someone who was in London. She said, oh yeah, I should be heading down to the southwest in about 2 months' time. I was like, yeah, I need to speak to someone like today, you know, or tomorrow. And I just got bounced around, mate, because no one wanted to take the responsibility of this, because I was I wasn't with a battalion. I was with a survival school, which didn't have its own, it had its own hierarchy, has its own adjutant, etc., but didn't have any sort of career management really in place. So I was just kind of in limbo, and then I ended up having to pay for some of my resettlement myself, because the paperwork didn't go through properly, because you don't know what you're doing, you know. I'm not, you know, I'm para-reg, I'm not the best at doing paperwork. You know, I was para-reg, see, I'm still doing it now. But so yeah, it's kind of, I think that if you're in the right place, you could be looked after, and there's a lot of courses and a lot of guidance out there. But if no one takes you on, you're really thrown to the wolves, mate. Yeah, so it's quite hard, isn't it?
So you think you need a handler, basically?
Oh yeah.
So someone like a mentor to basically say, right, this is the process. These are kind of the pitfalls. This is what we need to look out for, etc. Yeah.
But there is people that do that, see, and so I ended up with one, and he was in Plymouth. Yeah. And I met him a couple of times. He's a nice enough bloke, but everything I tried to get through with him, because he was separate. He was in Plymouth, and I was in, 30 miles away or whatever. It just everything took forever. He was ex-army, but they're all civil servants. I think who run it all, and they're not going to work past 4 o'clock or whatever time they're finished. They're not, they're quite comfortable in their job, in my experience. I know there's a lot of good ones out there, but it's not that easy. Everyone just can't, especially when you go for probably a more senior rank. People just think, I'll just leave him, let him go on with it. You don't really know what you're doing. I went into Civvy Street, and I was quite lucky as well, because I've done quite a long time in tri-service places, places where it's not that formal, not Pathfinders. It's quite very grown up. Right, so we don't muck up. There's not a massive focus on rank or bullshit. So I was lucky there, and then I took quite a bit of time at the survival school, which is similar, and tri-service as well. So I've kind of then been in a tri-service environment, especially working with the RAF. Kind of almost is like working with civilians anyway. No offence to my RAF friends, but so that kind of eased me into it. But I think if I spent 22 years or 27 years in free para or a battalion, I'd come out and I'd still have been like, reg, para-reg, hate everyone, don't talk to anyone who was para-reg, because I was a right bastard when I was younger. I wouldn't talk to anyone if they weren't para-reg.
Civvy, fuck off.
Yeah, one of them, a category that isn't para-reg. Talk to them, don't talk to anyone else. Everyone else is horrible and hates us, and so we hate them.
Airborne, yeah. What reg? What cap badge? RLC. Ooh, you just made it.
Yeah, that's it. But I wasn't that mindset when I was younger. If there was no other para-reg blokes there, I'd talk to the airborne blokes. But only then. It was like, it was crazy, mate. It was crazy. It did it. It was just, it did its job at the time. I grew out of that a long time ago. Yeah, so moving into Civvy Street is pretty difficult, mate, to be fair. Yeah. It's difficult. So I worked at a sports centre. So I did my because I was applying for that job. I'd applied for that job. I said, look, I'll do a personal trainer course and get qualified, ready for the job. I used my resettlement to do that. I ended up having to pay some of that myself because it all got messed up with the claims, because I wasn't, no one really told me what to do. There's lots of paperwork and lots of different bits of paperwork to go off to different people. It's just I ended up having to pay for that, and then I ended up working in a sports centre, which sometimes it was good, but I was taking classes in the morning with, it could be 20 people or whatever, but I was doing like a boot camp. I was thinking to myself, I was doing this as a PTI in free power in 1997 or whatever. I'm thinking I've not really moved on. And then you're not cleaning the toilets because no one else wants to clean the toilets, and you're thinking, well, I don't care, because you're in the army, everyone mucks in, don't
everyone mucks in, yeah.
No, I'm not above any job at all, and I'm like, well, it's not, I'm the new bloke. I was thinking like that, I'm the new bloke. I'll show willing, I'll do it, and I was cleaning toilets and sweeping up, and it just got a bit much, mate. Because you're thinking the amount of effort. I was thinking if I was a sergeant major here, I'd be giving some rockets up the ass, like massively. It's frustrating because you can't. So it's not that easy. And I thought it was going to be a lot easier, transitioning. But I didn't last very long, It's like, right, I'm going to step away after furlough finished, and I'm going to try and make money other ways, like writing books, do a bit of coaching. And I'm still sort of testing the waters now, see if I can make that work. Because I don't like the civvy environment that much, mate. I've got a limited experience of it, to be fair.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's still early days. Yeah, it's still early days. Steve, listen, I feel we're only scratching the surface here, buddy, but I am conscious of the time. It's been awesome so far. What I'd like to do is say, can we do a part 2 at a later date? Would that be all right with yourself?
Yeah, mate, of course, yeah.
Awesome.
No drama.
But I have thoroughly enjoyed today. But I do need to cap us off at this particular point. So we'll get this uploaded as soon as possible. It's been great chatting to you. I'm going to make some notes for the next topics of discussion for the next podcast, and hopefully we'll get that in as soon as possible.
All right, Paul. Yeah, good to speak to you, mate.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks very much, mate.
All right, take it easy, mate.